Okay, now that you've practiced completing the square, we're going to try an example that's just a little bit more complicated. This example has two irrational solutions. So the example is x squared minus 10x plus 26 equals 8. We're going to do the same thing that we were doing before. So we're going to start by subtracting 26 from both sides to move the constant to one side of the equation. Okay, I get x squared minus 10x. I'm going to leave a little bit of space for my constant. Okay, and I do 8 minus 26, and I get negative 18. Okay, and again, I'm going to add a little bit of space for when I make my perfect square. Okay, so now I'm going to take my b term, which is negative 10, divide it by 2, and square it. So I get negative 5 squared, which equals 25. So I'm going to add 25 to both sides. On the left side of my equation, I have a perfect square trinomial. I'm going to write it in factored form, which is x minus 5 squared equals, and negative 18 plus 25 gives me positive 7. Okay, so now I am going to use inverse operations, take the square root of both sides, and I get x minus 5 is equal to, and the square root of 7, since 7 is not a perfect square, I'm going to leave it as radical 7, and I have to make sure I put plus or minus radical 7. All right, now I'm going to solve for x, so I add 5 to both sides, and I get x equals, that's a positive 5 plus or minus radical 7. Now, if 7 were able to be simplified, the radical 7, if it were able to be simplified, we should do that, but 7 is a prime number, there are no perfect square factors, so it can be left alone. I just want to remind you guys that this means that there are two solutions. The two solutions are 5 plus radical 7 and 5 minus radical 7. So just like before, you can have two solutions. These are the roots where the parabola crosses the x-axis. They're just irrational numbers, so no different than before, just our answer looks a little bit more complicated than it did earlier.